thank you all for being here tonight. This is our fifth Masters of the Fly session for 2022. Um, for those of you who haven't attended one of these before, just maybe a quick word about what Masters of the Fly is and what these sessions are about. So David and I started this idea 2 years ago as the pandemic was sort of in full effect, and we were really feeling the absence of community with our angling comrades and friends, and thought that we could use Zoom and use other technologies just to stay in contact with one another and to keep ourselves connected as a community. And so we started Masters of the Fly, and I think we always want to explain that when we say Masters of the Fly, this isn't about the notion that there are folks who have mastered fly fishing and those who aren't. We just always thought, David and I, that anyone who dedicates his or her time and energy and capital to learning how to become a better fly angler and really enjoying and loving the fisheries that we all spend so much time on, in our view, everyone who could say that was a master or was in the process of mastering fly fishing. And so that was the spirit with which we created this collective called Masters of the Fly. We do these events, they're free, they're open to everybody. We do 6 or 7 a year. As I said, this is our fifth. We have 2 more coming up. We'll talk to you more about those momentarily, but really appreciate you all being here. And please stay engaged with us on social, on Instagram in particular, on our YouTube channel. Feel free to email us, but we really look forward to bringing you great sessions like tonight's session every winter when most of us aren't able to actually be fishing as much as we would like to. So with that said, I just want to do 2 quick things, and I'll hand it off to David. First is just to thank everyone for attending tonight, but also to thank all of the folks behind the scenes to help with this. Clay, who's manning the chat and the Zoom. Tom, who does an incredible job with the tech support and a lot of the social outreach, and so many others who've really helped to make this all work. Erik Schatzker has really been a compadre and partner in all of this. Our master host and MC, who you will all meet momentarily. So thank you all, and thank you all for being here. The last thing I wanted to just mention was for those of you, really for all of you who are anglers, fly anglers, we are at a critical juncture in the history of the management of striped bass here on the Atlantic coast of the United States. In the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, the ASMFC, just released their draft of Amendment 7 to the Striped Bass Management Plan, which has extraordinarily consequential sort of legislation in it, regulations in it, that will really shape the future of our striped bass fishery for generations to come. And we have a very small window between now and April 15th of this spring for all of you to get your public comments into the ASMFC about this important legislation or this important plan and amendment. I won't lie, it's a 180-page plan. It's incredibly complicated. So what we've done is we've simplified it all and broken it down and provided a template for all of you so that when you can effectively just take what we've written and make it your own and send it to the ASMFC. We've given you the email addresses and so on. Clay will put the link to the template document in the chat here, and we really plead all of you to send a letter before April 15th via email. It's incredibly important. We were told by the ASMFC that the public commentary was the most important factor in how they decided the final version of the regulations. So
yeah, and note that date, April 15th. This is more important than paying your taxes.
Excellent. So with that, I want to turn it over to David, and then we'll turn it over really quickly to our spectacular guests tonight. So David, take it away.
Wow. Well, I want to thank everybody in our community, and pardon me, I'm gonna have to look down and read because I can never remember all this stuff. But I want to thank Trout Unlimited. I want to thank Dunn Magazine. I definitely want to thank United Women on the Fly as well, and Kismet Outfitters and Martha's Vineyard. You guys rock. And, all you attendees, thank you for coming. Tonight, if people want to ask questions, in the lower right-hand corner of your Zoom, you're going to see Q&A. Please direct your questions to that Q&A on the lower right-hand corner. And additionally, we have a little raise hand thing. And if you touch the raise hand thing, we might actually put you up so you can ask a question live to our attendees or to us hosts. So we have that there for you guys. So with that, I want to introduce our panelists. Well, before I introduce our panelists, we have 2 events left. We have James Prosek on April 3rd. That's going to be an incredibly interesting discussion. And on May 1st, we have a Guides Roundtable, which will include 2 of the people who are here tonight. So now, without further ado, Clay, if you could kindly put a photo up that I sent to you a little while ago. And we're going to show this photo really quickly, and then I'm going to do my introductions. And if it doesn't come up, I'm still going to do the introductions. So here we go. Our panelists tonight, Abbie Schuster, Heather Hodgkins, and Jen Ripple. And I'm going to just kind of briefly go over you guys. You guys are so amazing, and I didn't know where to start. But Abbie is a guide. She has a wonderful store in Martha's Vineyard called Kismet Outfitters. And Abbie, congratulations, you're a new mom. So woohoo!
Yep.
So, yeah, 6 days old, and the baby is Isla, right?
Yep.
All right.
She's great.
All right, cool. So a little bit about Abbie. Next, we have Heather Hodgkins, founder of United Women on the Fly, which is an inclusive community, and more on that later. Heather, hi. And
Hi.
Her passion, enthusiasm for the sport is just completely contagious. And she's done some stuff with AFT, APTA, and Orvis. And Jen Ripple. I mean, I don't know what to say about Jen. Jen, you are the editor-in-chief of Done Magazine, a woman's magazine. Ooh, we're getting interesting screen here. A magazine, dedicated to fly fishing, and specifically with women. And it's a beautiful magazine. If you don't get it, guys and ladies, I highly recommend it. Jen's written for Outside Magazine and Gray's Sporting Journal. And she was Southerner of the Year by Southern Life Magazine. Pretty cool. But to put it lightly, these women rock. And we at Masters of the Fly are really proud and honored to have these 3 amazing women as our guests tonight. And with that, I'm going to throw the show to our other host extraordinaire, Erik Schatzker. So Erik, take it away.
David, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. For the last several weeks, David has been telling me that this was the Masters of the Fly episode he's been looking forward to all season long, more than anything else. And I was thinking to myself, that's big billing, because for any of you who have been here with us for the last several weeks, we've had Popovics, for example, Jason Taylor. The lineup has been exceptional. And I have to admit, I didn't really know what David was talking about until the last several days in which I had a chance to meet these 3 ladies who are with us tonight. And now I understand, and you're about to understand, why David has been looking forward to this so much. Heather, Jen, Abbie, welcome. I can't wait to begin. The easiest way for us to, I guess, introduce you to everybody is to have you say a little bit about yourselves so that they get to know you like I have got to know you over the past few days. And Jen, I'm going to ask you to begin. You've got an interesting story. You didn't start out your life as a fly fishing person at all. In fact, you have a medical background, and I want you to tell everybody about your journey from there to here.
Sure. So first of all, I'm gonna ease your communication skills. It's fly angler. So difference between an angler and a fisherman. An angler only fishes with a hook, and a fisherman will fish with like a net or a hook or anything. So we are technically fly anglers. Easy to say, gender neutral. So there you go. I made that easy for you. Hi, everybody. Gosh, thanks for having me go first. At least then I don't have to follow these other two amazing ladies. So yeah, I learned to tie flies before I learned to fish. So I was working at the University of Michigan, and it was a really cold winter, and I was looking for something to do. And so
Hang on a second. You have a medical degree.
well, I have a chemistry degree. So I don't know if that's medical, but yes. So yeah, working in a lab. And, I always say that the only thing that kept my principal investigator alive during those years was me discovering fly fishing, because I would literally leave the lab, go to my car, put my waders on, and walk like from here to 25 feet away and jump in the river, and taught myself to fly fish. So, I would just like every day I would have to go fly fishing, and then I could I'd work out all my aggression, and then I'd go back to work the next day. So yeah, so and then so fly tying first, and then when it was winter and it was really cold, and then when the ice was off the Huron River, I just taught myself to fly fish. And that's a bass river, so I learned to fishing for bass. And it was like 2 years before someone said to me, "You can't catch bass on a fly rod." And I was like, "You can't?" And they're like, "No, you're supposed to fish for trout." And I was like, "What's a trout?"
That doesn't even, I mean, it gets us part of the way, but it doesn't really explain to us how you ended up with Dun Magazine. Could we get there, please?
Yeah. So after when I stepped into the fly shop for the first fly tying class, I just became this obsessed addict that I know none of you out there can understand, right? Fly is just not addictive in any way. And so then I left the job, I moved back to Chicago, and when the place that I moved to was like on what they call the Circle in Norwood Park. And there's a tiny little like rod building fly shop there called Corin's Rod and Reel. And I walked in there, and they were having a fly tying class. And the guy that was leading the fly tying class, there were two of them, and they had just started an online digital magazine called A Tight Loop. And so I met the editor of that magazine and started writing a column for that magazine, a woman's column. But that's a very like male oriented. It was a very male oriented magazine. And so I would write very double entendre kind of articles like the sex hatch or 8 inches and all this ridiculous stuff. So I really wanted to, I love to write, and I really wanted to write for a woman's magazine. And there wasn't one. And so I spent a couple of days looking and making sure there was nothing, out there, and then was very disappointed that there wasn't a woman's magazine that I could submit an article to. And so I went to the editor of A Tight Loop magazine, and asked if he would help me start a magazine, because he had written all the code that it was done was only ever supposed to be a digital magazine, because back in 2013, everything was going digital. Little did we know it would take a pandemic for everything to really go digital. But yeah, so he helped me start the magazine. And so we started as a digital magazine. And that when I found out that there was no magazine for women, that was June of 2013. And then by September, we had our first magazine.
Fantastic. Abbie, I know there are some people here who have fished with you and who know your story, but I'm guessing that the vast majority do not. So in addition to being a new mom, congratulations.
Thanks.
That was your story.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm so honored to be these two badass, awesome, nice ladies. So I grew up fly fishing. I learned from my father when I was like, I don't even know, a baby. I don't really even remember learning. He's a psycho fly fisherman. So it was kind of no choice, which was lucky. And then we would, I fished my whole life. And then I started at University of Vermont and went out fishing for a weekend to Montana for the first time ever. And was like, what is this world? I'd never been out West before. And so I transferred, that was like Thanksgiving. And then I left that next semester to University of Montana and just totally was in heaven and started guiding out there. Went to guide school out there and then started guiding and been guiding ever since, really. And then I started Kismet in 2016 as just a guide service. Got my captain's license and got it all together. And then in spring of 2020, impeccable timing, decided to open a fly shop. But it worked out great. It was awesome. It's been really, really fun. And the vineyard has 2 other great shops, so they're not fly shops. So it's been really fun to get to know and learn the fly fishing community on the island and New England. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Okay, well, that helps us situate you. You're in Martha's Vineyard. Jen, I forgot to ask you, where are you?
I'm in Dover, Tennessee.
Dover, Tennessee. All right, Heather, it's your turn. Tell us your story. First of all, let's begin with where you are, where you're based, and then you can tell us all about you.
I'm in Spokane, Washington, and I actually knew Abbie I first met Abbie when she was doing the women's program in Seattle. Yeah. So kind of way back when. So I'm Heather Hodson, and I live in Spokane. Really, my true profession is I'm actually a critical care nurse, but fly fishing saves lives, and so does nursing. So it's kind of like a perfect marriage here for both of my professions. I was born in Alaska, so I've always been like a Western United States person, PNW kind of girl. And, I conventional fish, hunted, did everything. And then I didn't really start fly fishing. Jen and I actually started our kind of fly fishing journeys about the same time, kind of 2007, 2008. So not that long ago in the whole scheme of things, but kind of fun to know that, both Jen and I have a lot of similarities, which is pretty cool. But, I founded United Women on the Fly in 2016. I started a women's group called Spokane Women on the Fly prior to that in 2014. So I've kind of been in the women's space for a while now. And basically always just kind of fighting for gender parity ever since I've kind of joined fly fishing, truly. And, I have my guide's license in Washington State, but really my focus is on private lessons and to make an angler better. I don't want the stress of having to catch someone a fish. I want them to be able to learn and be confident and competent on the water. So really for me in the fly fishing space, I identify most as an educator. Like I love to educate. I want to teach. I want to share every bit of knowledge and every mistake that I've ever made out there. So that way everyone else can learn and get better. I am a sucker for spade fishing, sucker for trout, for dry flies, and I like salt. So I kind of like it all, truly. And am okay at it, which has been really cool to kind of have that progression. So yeah, that's me.
I was thinking to myself, what's the best question to ask to get this conversation going in the direction that it should? And I think, having thought about it, that Heather, it probably begins with you.
Oh gosh.
Why United Women on the Fly? Why was that necessary?
Because representation matters. I mean, there's, if you look at it and you look at all of these different organizations that are coming up, such as like LGBTQ Outdoors, Latino Outdoors, Brown Folks Fishing, United Women on the Fly, there's all of these different communities and organizations that are starting or have been started years ago or, just now. And the reason is because there really wasn't space for us. And that was a big part of it. I mean, we want women, or me specifically, is I wanted a space where I could talk about women stuff. Y'all don't want to know how to pee off of a boat or if we're on our period, right? Like in a public forum, you don't want to know how we deal with that on a flats boat. Like that's something that's not of interest to most. And so having and creating a space where it's welcoming to have those questions and be able to uplift and talk about it. And that wasn't there. And we didn't see ourselves, or I didn't see myself, especially when I first started, I didn't see myself anywhere represented at all. And so rather than kind of waiting to be invited, I just create my own damn thing. And so that's what I did. And it's been really cool to see just so many amazing women and just the community that's grown. And it's not just, we're gender inclusive, so it's not just women, it's all that are allies towards women too, which you all are for just inviting us. We need you to invite us into these kind of things. And so it's important that we all are together and we're all, supportive and highlight each other. And so that was really, I mean, I needed a space to feel free and talk and be uplifted and not be put down.
Tell us a bit about the organization you've built, United Women on the Fly. You've got, what, 17,000 followers plus on Instagram. You have a huge presence on Facebook. Who's part of your community and what goes on there?
Well, it's yeah, we have a public kind of part of it, then we also have a closed part of it. I just did the numbers today, so there's 4,600, almost 4,700 women that are involved within the closed group. The cool thing is of those 4,900 women or 4,700 women, 3,764 women in the last month are active. So that means that 80% of this forum is active, and that's like they're liking or commenting or posting. It's always, and 80% is pretty low. Usually we're higher, we're like 88, 92%. So, it's maybe it's the weather starting to become a little nicer and people are starting to get out, which is awesome. So it's just, what happens there is we ask questions, we connect, we share resources, we share education. And really it's that connection part of it where you can meet somebody from all over the world and hopefully go on, sleep on a couch or just hang out or get some, local intel or find out, what guides do people recommend? How do you hire a guide? Those are a lot of questions. There's always waiter questions like, hey, I'm 5'2", 145 pounds. What waiters fit you? Because women, our bodies are all different. And so it's just a place where women can connect and ask about like, hey, do you use a sling pack? Do you use a vest? What do you use? A place where people can share information. So and actually we just had a question, which is so awesome. And I'm so happy that our culture is starting to change. But one woman just posted a couple days asking, if there were other Mexican or Latina women guides out there, because they want to connect with other individuals that are of the same culture and of the same, everything. So it's really cool that we're starting to develop a culture where people feel safe and comfortable to even talk about those specific things as however they identify too. So yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
It certainly is. I want to remind everybody that this is an open forum. Your questions are welcome. Please just click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and send some questions my way. I'd be delighted to work them into this conversation. Jen, Heather talked about representation. That is an important word, and I want you to expand on that and explain why representation for women in fly fishing has been a problem.
Well, Heather mentioned that the two of us started our fly fishing journey at about the same time, and Abbie probably knows this better than anybody because she's been in it for so much longer. But when I started, like Heather said, I didn't see another woman on the river. I thought that women were brand new to the sport. In fact, I thought we were so new to the sport that I started a whole history lesson, my own research, just to find out if women had ever been in fly fishing before. And so, and then as you learn, that yes, women have been in this sport for a very long time. It's just been, the first book of fly fishing written by a woman, the way that we tie our modern day streamer. I mean, you name it. Women have been involved from the beginning, and giving when I started, when Heather started, when Abbie started, there was no foundation that we could stand firmly on, right? I felt awkward walking into a fly shop, except for the one that I was in, right? But if I'd walk into another one, people didn't know what to do with me. It's not that I think that the people in the fly shop were being rude. I mean, I've seen them be rude to men just like they've been rude to women in some instances, right? But I feel like they just didn't know, like, oh, women are, must be new. I don't see them anywhere. There were so few. So, and people always ask, like, is social media, has that been good or has it been bad for you, And I think social media has been fantastic. Yes, there are bad parts, but the ability for me to see and meet other women and, then start a magazine where women can tell their story, because we tell the everyday angler story. And so that's just empowering. And that's why it's important, because the more that you see yourself represented, the more that you connect with people who are like you, the more comfortable you feel in your waders, on the water, in a fly shop, on a forum, opening a magazine. That, you know, when you open a magazine and you see women that are everyday women that are picking up a fly rod and having a great time, that empowers you to then think, this must not be as hard as it has been portrayed in the past. Maybe this is something that I can get involved in. So, you know, representation is important for everyone, not just women in this field, but everyone should be able to open up a magazine, open up an Instagram page, and see themselves so that they know that they belong in this sport, because they do.
That
There's no
that is the
longer
case with
old.
Dun Magazine. That's not the case everywhere, is it?
No, of course not. That's why I started Dun Magazine, because I had to write those double entendre articles, because that's the only representation that I could find, you know. I mean, and since 2013, the world of fly fishing has changed dramatically. And I'd like to think that it's been because of Dun Magazine, because of United Women on the Fly, because of Kismet Outfitters, you know what I mean? Like women that are doing great things, because of Rachel Finn, who's here, right? Who was there before there was social media, who has fought the good fight so the rest of us can come and feel, you know, welcome on the water.
Jen, I'm going to come back to you. And of course, Heather, I'm coming back to you as well. But Abbie, as they've both pointed out, and as you yourself explained at the outset, you've had a fly rod in your hand since, you know, who knows how tall you were at the time. What have you seen change as far as representation is concerned?
I don't know. I go back. This is a question I go back and forth on like so much, because, and I don't like it, there's so many amazing women coming out and like having it be more, I hate the word like normalized, like finding other women to connect with. Like I just fly fished my whole life. I didn't really realize it was like a boy thing or a girl thing until I went to Montana and was like, why the hell are all my friends dudes? Like, where are the ladies? It was so bizarre. I didn't even like realize until I was out there, and I was like, huh, that's bizarre. And I'd go into a fly shop and then they'd be like, oh, well, do you need, I mean, it was nice. But like, do you need help picking out the fly? I'm like, man, I tied all these flies. Like, I'm good. It's fine. And in some ways it's changed a lot, like for the better. There's like, these are two amazing women that are perfect examples. And I don't think it's as odd if women go into fly shops anymore. But one of the reasons I like very passionately wanted to start Kismet in a fly shop was to totally have a safe, cool, fun space for anyone to come into and ask this dumbest question in the world and be like treated like, oh, that's not dumb at all. Like this is because of that. Because you go into some spots and they're just it's a cold community sometimes, I find. Even now.
That is, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. And for what it's worth, everybody can tell I'm a guy. I mean, but I have felt the intimidation.
Yeah. And there's no need to.
I'm not going to necessarily feel it the way that you may have felt it, but why is that the case? Why is it not more welcoming?
I don't know. It's bizarre. And
Yes.
The saltwater game is crazy. They're like old New Englanders, which I respect a lot of them, and they've taught me most of what I know, but they're a tough crowd. They're not easy to get in with. I don't know. I just feel like I have to prove myself again and again, and I'm not really sure why, because I can drive a boat or dock a boat just as well as they can. I can guide just as well as they can. It's not weird that I show up at the dock on a boat, but it is for some reason. I don't know why.
Or at the classic, you know, 3 women are on a boat. Oh, is it a ladies' day out on the water?
Yes, I know. Or a bachelorette party.
And yeah, that's just, it's odd. It's not normalized yet.
No.
It's just not normalized yet.
No.
Yes.
I think it takes to normalize it. I mean, obviously representation is important, but how do we get there? What are the steps along the way?
I think just keep doing it. Like,
yes,
I feel like it used to really bother me, to be totally honest. You know, people like it's just exhausting, like having to prove yourself again and again and again. Like, oh, that actually was a really good trip. I'm like, well, no shit. Like, of course, you know, like I'm working really hard here. And then like, oh, you docked really well. It's like, okay, well, you know, I am a captain, so hopefully. But like, I think just I put on like horse blinders, I feel like, and realize like, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just like I don't even keep fish. I literally release all the fish. I just want everyone to be involved and just put horse blinders on and be like, what, this fight is worth fighting. And like, it's not even a fight, but this movement is worth fighting and like getting as many people involved as possible. And I think over time it has to change, of course.
Well, I want to strike an optimistic tone for just a second and say that it is changing.
Yeah, it is.
Right? It is changing thanks to the effort that you're making and that you're making, Jen, and that you're making, Heather. It is changing day by day. And it's not just a matter of women coming to the sport. It's everyone realizing that we all belong right in the same tent.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. I believe that. I think it almost goes without saying. Jen, I want to go back to you because you shared something with me the other day that it made me laugh and it made me cry at the same time, which was the things that people say to you when they see you casting out, that you can cast a whole fly line.
Yeah. Well, of course, nobody thinks you can do that, right? And yet women have proven that it's not, fly fishing and fly casting specifically is not about power. It's not about strength. It's about timing, right? It's about, and honestly, I can't tell you how many people I've been in a boat with and how many guides that have said, wow, I love to guide women because the women listen. Well, some of us listen. I don't know. I don't always listen, but but seriously, women make fantastic fly anglers. And I don't know why it's still so surprising that we make, good fly anglers, because it is about finesse and it's not about strength. And when you watch someone like Maxine McCormick, or you've seen Joan Wolfe cast, or you've seen Heather Hodson or Abbie cast, these are, women make great fly anglers. I think too, for me, it's just really fun to cast. So I like to perfect my cast because that's the fun part. I like to catch a fish, and that's why we're all doing this, right? But at the end of the day, if I don't catch a fish and I'm on a river and I've made some beautiful casts, and I'm just going to say, the vast majority of the time, I'd like to think I make a good cast, but I don't make a perfect cast every single time. I've been doing this a long time. That's not what fly fishing is. I still get tangled in my line. I still hook the rock in front of me just to pop it off and hook the tree behind me. A lot of times people think that, especially new anglers, they're embarrassed when they get tangled in their line, or they're embarrassed when they make a bad cast, or they're embarrassed when they get caught in something, right? And women, we always apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, to the guide. I'm so sorry you have to row backwards and go get my fly. That's just fly fishing, right? And I think that, women have been really good about, especially the ladies on this panel, because, we've been good about saying that's just fly fishing. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to not always make a perfect cast. But I have had people, whether they've said to me, oh, wow, you really do know how to cast a fly rod. Thanks. I do edit a magazine that's about fly fishing. It's my passion. I do it a lot. Or they say, like, when you make a crappie cast, they say that too. Oh, that, or after you've made a couple crappie casts and then you make a good one. Well, that's the best cast you've made all day. Really? Maybe I'm hungover. Maybe I don't know. I'm having a bad day, whatever it is. But yeah, the things that you hear, and I will say though, again, things have dramatically changed even since 2013 or 2007 and 8 when Heather and I got involved in this. But, I've seen people and I've heard guides say crappy stuff to men too. So I just think that as women, sometimes we can think that it's just because we're women, but really the fly community can be a little bit not nice at times. So
Heather, what do you attribute that hostility to?
What do I attribute it to? The fact that those guys that are saying that haven't gotten out and fished enough, that it's really cold out, that they have a crappy life. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, we all have to remember something that I've said forever. Fly fishing is fishing, and fishing is supposed to be fun, right? So.
Thumbs up to that. Heather, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think people are afraid of change. That's what I think. I think not even just in fly fishing, just in everything. I look at it as a nurse. Like, we have old nurses that don't want to see the new nurses coming in and new changes or new research, or, there's always a new way to do things. And I really think that change is scary. And also it's change means that you have to give over some of your power. And I think, like, distributing that and making it more equal is hard for some individuals. And so I really attribute it to change. I think change is hard for so many people.
Hey, Erik, can I ask a question here too?
Absolutely, Luyen.
Because the line of discussion made me think, Jan, about the conversation we had sort of in preparation for this, and I think it was you. It was either you or Heather. I think it was you who sort of made the comment that you were not a fan of IGFA having a separate category for women. And
Yes.
I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit because I had never thought about that before, but I thought it was a very deep and meaningful
Mhm.
notion.
Yeah, so the IGFA is where you get all the world records, right, when you're fishing. And some years back, they came out with the pink rule, which really meant that all the world records that had been out there before, if they had been caught by a man, that now there was an open record for women because, women obviously can't hold a world record that's the same as anybody out there, right? So what that meant to me when that came out, I was really mad about it because when it came out, it really, I think, illegitimized women, right? So first of all, oh, well, you can't get a world record on your own, so you'll have to have this pink rule. And then what it really made me want to do was jump out there and be like, oh, look at this bass that I caught. This is a world record because I'm a woman. Look at this tarpon. Ooh, it's this big. This is the new IGFA women's pink rule world record tarpon. I mean, it's just ridiculous because, we've just talked about how fly fishing is a leveling sport, right? I mean, it's not about power. It's not about strength. It's all about finesse. It's all about timing. It's all about learning how to cast, how to hook a fish, how to land a fish, right? And so having this pink rule was just really, really, I think it was debilitating for women. I think that it said something to the fly fishing community when I don't know who voted on this and said that this was a great idea, but when they did, it just basically it put women back 5 steps from where we were, even when it came out.
Does
So
it put you in a separate class?
yeah, again, we're trying to normalize this. We're trying to say that we have a seat at the table. We deserve a seat at the table, but you don't say that you deserve a seat at the table by saying, okay, you can have a seat at the kids' table over there and in the women's table over there, right? That's not how it works.
And I think what's so fascinating about that insight is it speaks to the fact that that this sport is one that doesn't, as all of you have been saying, doesn't actually have a built-in preference for men who may be stronger or have more body mass or are taller or whatever. It's different if you're a swimmer or if you're if you're a vaulter or if you're a baseball player, but actually, this is a sport that we all can compete in at the same level, which I think is really interesting, and I'd never thought about that before. So
Yeah,
anyway, it would just
and
really resonate.
Lou, interestingly enough, and Abbie knows this, is 90% of the casts are inside 60 feet. So I mean, come on, everybody.
Yeah, you're
and,
good.
and by the way, you amazing women, you actually hit on something without saying it. So I'm gonna say it, the elephant in the room. We're all talking about male ego here. And it's a sickness. When I have women come on the boat, it's all about the joy of the day. When I have guys come on the boat, it's like they're counting. I'm like, stop counting and just enjoy while you're out here. So I really don't like fish counters. I've had clients in the past, and if they're watching now, you know who you are. I don't invite them on my boat anymore because all they care about is numbers. They don't care about the experience. So, and it's really a problem. I think,
David, good for you for starting to call out something, because that's where I really wanted to go next with the conversation. Heather, I'll put this one to you, but I think this is something that all three of you need to say to address. Let's put it that way. Who's responsible, right? Who's to blame? This is not. These are not. I mean, to some degree, those responsible may feel that these were passive decisions. Oh, this is just the way it's been done before. But somebody has to make a choice not to include. Where do we look?
We're all responsible. I mean, at the end of the day.
Well, hang on a second. You're actually trying to do the opposite of
No,
take
we are.
responsibility for the way that things are.
No, we're all responsible, because if women don't stand up for this, and if individuals, if we all have a voice, and we all need to use it. And so we're all responsible. I think, like, for our modern day, like what it is, the structure of fly fishing per se is, it's manufacturers, it's our trade association, it's, it's the industry. The industry is responsible. And that includes women, that includes those that don't identify, or that are, non-women, or men that are non-binary. That it's, everyone is responsible. We all have a voice, and we all have to stand up for ourselves and for change, to make the world better. So we're all responsible. I think, when I look at stuff, I have conversations, I have monthly conversations with lots of manufacturers and lots of people, or lots of different companies, about all of this work, about how we can make change. And it's slow. This is a slow change. Just in, 8 years, it's changing, but it's slow. So I think, how we can change it, I know you were kind of asking that, is invite or bring new people onto the boards, bring, kind of start to mix up the people that are making the decisions, and that kind of power needs to change a little bit. In the fact that we just need to include more women. If we were to go through the top 10 fly fishing companies right now, and you look at the boards, or you look at like the main decision makers, I guarantee there's not very many women on there. And so that's how we make change, is we, like, on an upper level, is we start to hire individuals that are not now normally represented within the companies. That's not easy, but that would be amazing if that actually could happen. On an easier, lower level, content, there are so many women that are great casters, and that content doesn't exist. Like, if you look at all of the content and videos that are out there, or the movies, that content doesn't exist. So why doesn't that exist? It's partly some women, I would assume. It's also filmmakers. It's also manufacturers that are sponsoring films. So they're sponsoring non-women, it's everyone's to blame. And so we just have to be more supportive, and hire more, and just invite women to not just be on a women's panel, but to be a part of, like, Abbie's going to be in the guides, the guides table. That's awesome. Like, that needs to happen more. Is, we as women are educators, and we're smart, and we know what we're talking about. So invite us to the non-women stuff, so we can actually, like, teach and talk about fishing, because that's why we're all here. We're all here because of this common denominator of fishing, and the three of us are freaking good at it. So invite us to talk about that and make us the experts.
So
that was long-winded, sorry.
No, that's great. And sorry, I know Abbie and Jen, I'm sure you'll have lots to add on this, but Erik and I had a conversation about this after our prep call as well, because it seems very short-sighted of the industry itself. Because again, you've got a sport where there is this level playing field, where you have large numbers of women who are excited and passionate about this, and frankly many who should be, who don't know enough about it. It just seems like good business sense to extend the market segment, to this new segment, right? And have more women in the boardroom helping to figure out how to make that work. It just seems like lost opportunity. And I guess even from a purely self-centered capitalist perspective, I don't understand. What am I missing? Why isn't the industry embracing women more?
Change is scary, and giving up power is scary.
And if people too, like, this is what I always say too, it's like, it's really just fishing. Like, we're not solving world problems, really. We're not like conducting brain surgery. Like, it's fishing. Like, I have clients that are literally in their 90s. I have clients that are 2. I have 2 clients that are in wheelchairs. Like, anyone can fish, literally anyone. And so if you just kind of look at it, I think, like, as simple as that, and realize like, okay, why can't, like, I think Heather, you were totally spot on, like having women on boards and like in companies and hiring that, like, of course, like that's how it should be. That's two different brains coming together to create a really amazing product. It's like if one person just came up with everything, it'd be really pretty boring, you know? So I think if you just take away this whole thing and just realize it's fishing and kind of hopefully you'll take away the intimidation factor, because it is an intimidating sport. I don't know why, but it is. And like, yeah. So I think people can just chill out. Yeah.
And the three of us, we all had to start somewhere. And I'll tell you, like at the very beginning, when I kind of first got on board and I started Spokane Women on the Fly. Oh man, I got so much hate. Like I was hated on because I was this new woman coming into the scene, and you know, there was a little bit of a competition and being afraid, but there's room for us all. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially for individuals that are new to the sport and want to be a guide, and they've only been a guide for a year. I think we have to uplift them and we have to support them, because we were all there at some point, and we know the hate that we got, and look at us now. Right. And so that's what I keep telling myself when I know and I see these, you know, new women coming on and trying to make a business and be a guide and be a part of it. We just have to support that and uplift it and you know, just highlight them, because we want them to be the next Joan Wolf. We want them to be the next Rachel Finn. We want them to be the next Molly Semenuk. Like there's, you know, like we know that those women, like they can be those people. So yeah.
Even us guys, I think I've learned more about fly casting from Joan Wolf than I have from anybody else.
That's awesome.
And you work with a lot of manufacturers, you know, the trade organizations well. I'm interested in having you say something about who's doing it, and it's extremely important, by the way, to say something about who is supportive. But before we get there, do you want to point some fingers?
Sure, I'd be happy to point some fingers. I mean, you know what? I think it starts with our trade association, and I think our trade association sucks. I mean, you know, I think that the trade association has.
By the way, for those who don't know exactly what you're talking about the AFFTA.
AFTA, the American Fly Fishing Trade Association. And I think that, you know, there needs to be more women on the board. That board is still a bunch of good old white men, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of hate mail, and I don't really care because I served on that board and I saw it firsthand. You know, there's still a whole bunch of people on, you know, a whole bunch of good old boys on that want just to support the big industry. They don't, a lot of times they don't care about the small industries, the cottage industries, you know, those people. And so for me, you know, if I'm going to point a finger, because I know it firsthand, I'm going to point it right back at our trade association. Trade, like Heather said, change starts at the top, and I would like to see them step out, get a grip on the fact that women are here to stay, and help support manufacturers, you know, and I get it from the manufacturer point of view, right? Because women are of all different sizes. We only like certain things. We're very picky about the way our waders fit and the way that our boots fit, and we have a million different sizes. And so for a manufacturer to make a women's line costs not only a lot of foresight, but it costs a lot of money. And so, and then for a fly shop to actually have it in their retail store, that's a lot of real estate, right? That's a lot of shelves to fill to accommodate women who are still really a small population in fly, you know, growing, but still small. And so it's kind of like the chicken, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And so, you know, how do you get more gear for women? Well, you show that there are more women in the industry, in the sport, and women who buy stuff, you know. But then too, there are a lot of women who can't afford to buy expensive fly gear, and so, you know, the fly shops have to make money, the manufacturers have to make money, and so as more women get involved, as more women become more vocal, as more women demand better quality gear, then we're going to see that change in the fly shop because people will buy it, right? And so it is a catch-22 still. I get it. I just don't have to like it. And it comes full circle, because that's what the trade association should be doing. They should be supporting the fishy wares, the smaller companies that are trying to make great stuff for women, and it's expensive. And so, throw them a bone, how is it so difficult? Patagonia, Sims, all these big guys, they already have a corner on the market. Let's give some kudos to the young up and coming, again, a whole new way to change what it looks like, right? Fly fishing doesn't always look like the Patagonia model. We talked about this earlier. I'm not 6 foot tall and I'm not a size 2, right? I might be 5 foot tall and a size 2, but that's not everything fits. Not everybody looks like that, right? So anyway,
but there is another side to that coin, right? I do want to give Heather, by all means, jump in 1 second, but I do want to give Jen an opportunity not to be, just dumping all over. But I know for a fact that you've worked with some manufacturers whom you feel get it and are doing at least some of the right things. So let's talk about them.
Yeah, Reddington, Orvis, even Patagonia, these are all great organizations. They're big companies, right? They're trying to do the right thing. Again, it's about baby steps in this, like Orvis's 50-50 on the water, a great initiative that got great gear out there for women, recognized women as a powerhouse. And I can say that out of all of the organizations that are out there, the first company that bought an ad in a woman's fly fishing magazine was Orvis. So I give them kudos. Not only do they before 50-50, they got a bunch of women together. And honestly, when I was invited, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, great, another manufacturer who wants to pick my brain and waste my time and not make any change. And I did a 180 after that, because not only did Orvis pick our brains and all of that, but they did exactly what they said they were going to. They changed the way that they made gear. They listened to what women were saying, and they made a big difference in the industry. And so for me, it's stuff like that, when you not only just ask what women want, but then actually change your model and take that leap of faith into this new market. That's how this changes.
Abbie or Heather, talk to us about Abbie, what's your experience? Talk to us about the companies with which you've had good experiences.
And Abbie, because you run a shop, I'd be curious how you think about it as a retailer too.
It's a funny thing, to be honest. It's hard as a shop, because Jen said it perfectly. Like I have a ton of female fishing clients, but my shop is small. It's like a great size, but it's not huge. And it's hard to carry like 15 different types
of
15 different anything really. But if women's waders are different colors, and I'm probably the pickiest of them all when it comes to this, it's ridiculous. But it's hard to carry, it's hard to make it equal and financially make sense at the same time. And it's something I've actually really struggled with buying for the shop.
I can imagine.
But it's even in the last, so this will be my third summer with it. Even in the last year, it's like people are like, oh, you have women's stuff, because that was a very new idea for some. I don't know why. And so it's actually really helped. Like now people come to my shop because I do have different types of waders, and I do have different companies that fit differently. I've had a lot of luck with, I like how Patagonia has handled a lot of stuff. I think their waders fit well, and I like their environmental standpoint. Orvis has done a really great job as well. I think Thomas & Thomas, I work with them, but a lot of their photos, it's pretty equal between men and women. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's part of it, because I know when I was little and stuff, and you're going through magazines or whatever, it's all men. It's like the first visual thing that you see, even before you're buying, before you're even thinking about even getting into it. That's kind of where the intimidation starts. It's like, even if you could just do it with a simple photo, it kind of gets people's gears turning and the mindset kind of change. So I think they've done a really nice job with kind of creating it. Orvis has done a good job with that too, but just even visually.
Heather, I want to come to you in 1 second, but since you mentioned photos, Abbie, I want to bring David in here, because David, you have a very good point about photos, particularly in the context of fly fishing, and the degree to which the way in which they often portray women.
Yeah, I'm actually offended by what I see online. And, we all talked about this earlier in the week, that many of the photos are really, they're a put down. They're not very deep. They don't show any depth at all. It's just, a woman. I know Jen's going to jump in on this one so quick, but I'm sick of seeing the typical, as some people call it, fish porn, women in bikinis holding fish. That's not fishing. That's not fly fishing, not by a long shot. It's degrading. I want to see somebody holding a fly, releasing a fish. I want to see the full waders. I want to see what is supposed to be our equal, and we're not seeing it.
Can I say one thing about that though? To be
Sure.
honest. Okay, so I totally 100% agree with you on that. But the other side of it is, so I hosted a trip down to Cuba right before the pandemic in February. And a lot of the women there's mostly women on the trip, were fishing in bikinis. And so that's just because we saw sun for the first time in months. We were fishing bikinis, and then they posted that. And then I was getting all this flack from people like, oh, that's how you're going to run your business. And it's like, I'm not running my business. I'm just like,
Were you guys
fishing
holding
with a bikini top on? Whatever. Who
Were
cares?
you guys holding fly rods, or were you just holding a fish? Because if you're holding fly rods, it changes the complexion of the photo.
I don't know. It was both.
I don't know.
But it just I just feel like men sometimes will post like a photo without a shirt on, and I'm not like, oh, that's horrible. I don't know. It just, to me, there's definitely people like, oh, look at my body.
Right.
But there's also like, this is just what I happen to be wearing in this moment, and this is my first bonefish, so I want a photo of it.
Jen, you got to get on this.
It's fine if it's authentic. It's not fine if it's posed just to show the bikini.
I agree with that.
That's
And
all.
the beautiful thing about social media is you can just scroll right past it. Like you don't have to look at it. You don't have to follow it.
Right.
We're all in charge of what we look at and what we spend, because all of our time is precious. And same thing goes with money too. Like our money speaks so much to who we support and what we buy. And so that's the way I look at it. Like there's so many different social media accounts that's all they show are women in fishing. And sometimes it's, for me, I'm a huge advocate for keep fish wet. And so I can't even follow a lot of legit people's accounts because it's just improper fish handling. So that's,
Heather, do you take this subject up in the Facebook group at all?
Yeah. We do a fish handling Friday. So every month or every week, we actually right now are doing a 27-week campaign. And so we're doing every single principle, every single tip for keep fish wet, all of the science-based information. And so we do that twice a year. So every Friday we're sharing and showing and showcasing women's photos of fish or of their fish photos that they've taken that are properly handled. So we do a lot of science-based stuff on that every Friday. So that's a huge part of it. Yeah.
And what are these? I'm curious, and in fact, Jen and Abbie, I would like to know your thoughts on similar issues in just a moment. But what are some of the other things you're passionate about? Let's forget for a moment about why we're here, which is to talk about women in fly fishing. Let's just talk about fly fishing. What are some of the other things about fly fishing that you're passionate about, that messages you want to get out?
That you're never going to be an expert, that you're always going to be not good at a specific technique. So, because I guarantee y'all that are saltwater anglers, come with me and let's go spay fishing, right? Like you're going to be a fish out of water. Or, if you're trying to cast an 18-foot leader, 7X tippet with a size 22 dry, that's a lot different than it would be for salt, and or if you're Euro nymphing, or if you're dead drifting a streamer. So I'm passionate about being able to learn so much and be super nerdy and getting good at it all. And that's really what drives and what fuels my fire, is like, I just want to be the best I absolutely can be. And so that's reading books, that's watching, that's learning, that's teaching, that's doing, and doing it all versus just a specific technique. So I want to learn it all and I want to be good at it all. So that's what I'm excited about.
And how
so
about
well
you?
said. That's so well said. I just want to say something. Tonight is the most animated chat we've ever had in a Masters of the Fly. I've been following it, and everybody's saying stuff, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. This is really terrific.
That's
Jen,
awesome.
what are you most passionate about?
Me? Oh, Jen?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
you.
I'm most passionate about the whole education side of it. I feel as a guide, like I chose to be a guide, and that's my life. And I have this amazing opportunity to be with incredible people every day, different people every day. And I've learned so much from them. And also I get to show them this resource that I'm so proud of and so passionate about. Martha's Vineyard Fishery is incredible. The ocean is incredible. And to be able to teach that to all my clients, and like how to handle fish, and why that fish ate that, and why if you hold it like this and we're taking this crazy photo, why that fish won't survive, and how that's not actually one fish that's not surviving. That's a mama fish that could have millions of babies. And even learning more, like just like learning for your every day, you're learning. The weather teaches you. There's a weird rogue wave thing. Oh, I could have handled the boat better that way. Oh, here's a new knot that a client taught me. Just being open and teaching and learning is like, I feel like there's very few things in life that like you can't get enough information about. And yeah, so I make it my job to try and educate people, and then let people educate me, because I have a lot to learn still, which is awesome. It's fun.
Jen?
I'm passionate about empowering people to pick up a fly rod. So for me, I think, Abbie said it, for whatever reason, this is still an intimidating sport. And I think especially for women. So the way that I think that you empower someone, male or, men, women, whatever, to pick up a fly rod is by just breaking down the barriers. You break down the intimidation factor, and you do that, for me, I'm a very strong, opinionated woman. I'm not intimidated easily, but there was something intimidating for me about casting a fly rod, right? And I mean, casting a fly rod is a very visual thing. It's very difficult to get up in front of people, especially when you're new, and cast a fly rod for the first time. That's just intimidating 100% of the time. And as a woman, I think, for me, I would not be where I am today, and I would not have taken a casting class had it not been taught by a woman. So for me, as a woman, a class that's not just for women, but also taught by a woman, took away the one intimidating factor that allowed me to enter into this gateway drug that we call fly fishing. And so, I think that for me, it's empowering. That's why the magazine tells the everyday angler story, because if you can see an everyday person doing it, and not just, I write for all these different magazines, I can write a great article about how I caught big tarpon in the Keys, but that doesn't empower the everyday angler to go down there and try tarpon fishing. But what does empower the everyday angler and the everyday person is if they see someone who's brand new to the sport, fall in love with the sport, and tell their story. So everybody has a story. Telling those stories is what I'm passionate about, the everyday.
Now let's flip it back to the reason we're here. Peter Suska put this question in quite a while ago, and Peter, forgive me for taking so long to getting here, but on the other side of who's responsible, what can we, and he puts in parentheses, us guys, do to help? Heather?
Oh, the list. Let me see my scroll of stuff. One of the biggest things is highlight us, share us, invite us. Somebody Kurt asked on the chat, do you all speak at fly fishing clubs? So I know Jen and I we speak at all clubs, and Zoom has actually helped a lot with being in speakers. And I'm sure Abbie probably speaks a lot too for different things. So inviting us and women to be presenters, inviting us to be those experts or those instructors at the fly fishing shows or any of the different local fly fishing shows that you have or any kind of events, don't just have us as women for women, have us in the main. We want to be on the main stage. So invite us on the main stage. The easiest thing, and not everyone can do that because not everyone's in charge of hiring and or of inviting us or having us as speakers. The easiest thing is, especially on social media, I mean, everyone here saw this because of social media. So if you are seeing things with Abbie or with Jen or with United Women Fly, share it. It's a quick, easy little share to Instagram, on IG stories. It's a really easy way to just build a relationship and be supportive and just say, hey, there's this cool education that's happening. Or if you really want to go take a guided trip with Abbie, if you want to learn and meet with Jen, she's going to be here. It's just a quick share. And that is the easiest way, like the first step to actually amplifying us and supporting us is just share us, help us, speak our name in a circle, speak our name in a meeting, like talk about women, talk about whoever you know that's really good, or that you want to hire or whatever. Just mention our name in a group, in a social setting. That can go a long ways.
I just got a text from Fred Hoffman, and I'm just going to say this. The best way to support women is to hire women. It's really simple and elegant. I'm down with that, Fred. Thank you for texting me and letting me know that. Another thing, we're going into overtime. I want to keep this going, Erik. So if you guys are game, and Abbie and Heather and Jen, if you're game, we're going to keep the flow going for a little while longer. Are you guys good with that? Mm-hmm. All right.
We do need Jen and Abbie to answer that same question that Peter posed, which is what can we, which is to say the rest of us, do to help? Heather, you said it best: share, amplify, invite onto the main stage. Jen, what else?
Fight for women. You see someone that's doing something that's not appropriate, stand up, say something. So many times, like, men will come to me afterwards when they've seen something. They'll come to me afterwards and say, oh yeah, you were right to say that, but they wouldn't stand up in a meeting, right? They wouldn't say that in public. And so we need men and women to stand up for other men and women. We see injustices all the time. And I also think that what you can do is you cannot say anything. So on social media, there are a lot of people who say things that are inappropriate every single day, be it, sexually inappropriate, be it mean. We just need to remember what our mothers taught us. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And so I think that if we start to do those two things, maybe this culture will change a little bit.
So I want to ask about that, and I want to ask Abbie as a guide, because for all of us who have fished with guides know that that a lot of the clearly this is not true of you, Abbie, as a teacher, educator on the water, but so many of the stereotypical guides that we fish with, particularly on the Salt, it's and I'll be honest, as a Chinese American, half the time I'm trying to close my ears at some of the stuff I'm hearing on a boat with an old time guide for 8 hours on a 18-foot skiff. Is some of this generational too? Is this just going to have to change just over time? Honestly, the shit that some guys get away with, I'd be horrified to imagine them doing this in any other context. Sorry, David, not you and Abbie excluded, but and Heather obviously, and Jen, but like, is part of this just generational at this point?
I think it is. I don't think that's an excuse, but I definitely think it is. I've literally said to people, like, in what world do you think that's an appropriate question? The fact that I was pregnant guiding this summer, I would show up and people would act like I had like 18 heads and be like, "You what? Like, you're just gonna have a baby now and it's just gonna be done." I'm like, you really think I built a whole business just to have a baby and be done with this? Like, no, of course I'm still gonna guide. Of course I'm gonna be out here next summer. Of course I'm gonna get in the boat. Like, we're going right now. I might puke a few times more, but it's fine. Everything's good. And I think what I love about guiding is like walls come down, and like I feel like I've been a therapist. People have been therapists to me sometimes. You know, you're out in nature and you're like totally open up. I feel like I know some of my clients as well as or as deep as like some of my oldest friends almost, because they do come down. But with that also comes some pretty bizarre comments. And yeah, I do think it's a little bit generational, but I don't think it's an excuse.
Yeah.
None-
As long
none
as,
of it-
as long
none
as
of it's
old
an
guys,
excuse.
yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah,
as long as those old guys don't raise new old guys, we'll be all right.
that's a good point. Exactly. Exactly.
David, what do you say?
I'm just, I'm listening to this. I hear stuff that goes on that people say on my boat that I just like, it could never come out of my mouth. I would be like ashamed. So I don't care. I agree with Abbie. Just because you're from a different generation does not give you an excuse to say things that are inappropriate. And I get offended very easily, and I've been known to correct people in a very deliberate way.
Yeah.
So
I think that's great that you correct people, because that's kind of like the change of being like, oh, maybe I can't really get away with that anymore.
Yeah.
So good
no,
job.
I mean, I fished with for years. I fished with the Julianas, and boy, what a great group of women it was to fish with. And they could toss shit around just like anybody else, but it's appropriate shit. And
Mostly because they were
somebody.
giving you a hard time, David.
Oh, listen, I get a hard time. People love giving me a hard time because I can take it and it's fun. But someone messes up a cast, you're gonna hear some the second seat on the boat's always saying something about somebody on the bow. And it's the guide's responsibility to just say, stay calm, it's okay. There'll be another fish coming along soon.
Unless that's Luyen on the bow and me in the second seat. But that's okay.
Hey now.
Well, hey, Erik, there's no excuses for missing that bass last summer.
Ladies, Dave McElhaney here in the Q&A says, looking for advice on advocating for my daughter in the fishing world. A few words of advice for Dave.
Well, how old is she? Because, there's a lot of young girls nowadays who are online doing great things and getting people together, their peers together to do fly tying classes, to go fishing together. So I guess it depends on
She's
what
12,
age.
by the way. She's 12.
By the way, I'd love to actually have Dave, if Dave is willing to if you can raise your hand, Dave, because Dave also earlier
That's
said
true.
he had a great Abbie story.
Yeah, go to the hand wave.
Dave, raise your hand and we'll spotlight you here.
Oh, he raised his hand, it looks like.
He's being shy. It's
All
the
right.
second from the right on the bottom, Dave. You'll see a little hand.
Oh, no, he raised his
He
hand.
raised
Did you
it.
raise it? Okay.
Okay.
So why? Oh, I see it. I got it. Hold on. Let me get him in here. Okay. Hey, Dave. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Oh,
He can definitely hear us.
I'm going to promote him to panelist. Here we go. Hey, Clay, can you make sure? Clay. So Dave.
There it is.
Oh, he's rejoining as a panelist. Okay, so he has to come back in. So there we go. And I'm gonna if you can unmute Dave, we're gonna make you co-host so you can come on here and turn
Unmute. How's
There we
this?
go.
How's everyone
There we
doing?
go.
Hey Dave.
Holy smokes. So, what an amazing evening. Heather and Jen, huge fans, but I am the vice president of the Abbie Schuster fan club with my daughter Porter being the president. So, so amazing topics, and I have a vested interest in this, but couple Abbie stories. One is I've hired her as a guide. I've hired her as a guide for my daughter casting lessons. We fished as friends, but I was at a fly fishing show down in Massachusetts and needed help just picking out gear. I'm new to saltwater. And so Abbie took some time, left her booth, and we walked around, and she was just loading me up with gear. And I mentioned to the guy who was checking me out that she's helping me get this. And, and he kind of had this odd look like, what is she doing helping you doing this? And I'm like, man, this is Abbie Schuster. and it was, his expression was like, oh, wait, Martha's Vineyard. And I'm like, yeah, like, don't mess with her. And like, she could literally outcast anyone in that whole entire place. And I've seen it. She's 2 strokes on the drift boat. She's 75 feet away, putting it exactly where it needs to be on the Andrew. Like, these are just amazing things. And as my daughter looks up to her, and and what I want to do is just, how do I promote this? How do I make sure that, I can't make her immune to the guys that aren't respecting her on the water. But, and it could be a generational thing. It could be that, she's about to turn 12. What's going to happen when she's hardcore fishing back to, a few years from now? So I'll be quiet, but congratulations, Abbie. Can't wait to see you soon. And Jen and Heather, amazing. You two amazing people. So
thanks for the story. That's awesome. I love that. So
Hey,
Abbie, what do you
great
think?
story. Listen, it's starting to get late. Abbie has a baby that needs another feeding.
Sorry.
Heather and Jen, wow. I mean, I can't thank the 3 of you enough for coming. I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. And we're trying to do our part for you guys by having you as our guest tonight. And this segment will live on forever on our YouTube channel and Facebook. So people who are tuning in, please go and watch and download it and send tonight's segment to all your friends. It's really, really important, because the conversation, while tonight's not the first night we've had this conversation, metaphorically, hearing it tonight is incredibly important in making further inroads for women in fly fishing, and really it's really women in general. We talk about the glass ceiling and everything, and we can make it a whole political thing, but really tonight has shed a lot of important light on many different issues, fly fishing just being, metaphorically what we're using, kind of like, river runs through it. Fly fishing was a metaphor for a bigger thing. So I thank you, Erik and Lou. I'm going to let you guys wrap up a little, and then the bunch of us have to talk about a fishing trip, and it'll be on the Vineyard in July.
Yes.
Great fishing. Y'all are gonna come my way. No.
I'm down with
I'm
that
just going to
too.
say,
I'm okay
Abbie
with that.
and,
We'll do the
Heather-
tour.
What's that?
We'll do a tour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like that.
okay.
I just got back from a ski safari with my wife. We were in Taos, Utah. It was great. We could do the same thing, fly fishing.
A fly fari.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, Abbie, Jen, Heather, thank you so very much for joining us, for taking my questions, for sharing your experiences, and illuminating us, because this is a conversation we need to have more frequently, and we need to get to a point where it isn't a conversation we need to have. Let's just put it that way. But between now and then, this is a forum where you're always welcome, and I hope you'll feel comfortable here, and I hope that one of you will feel comfortable taking my place and actually running the show, because that's where you belong.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank you
guys.
for including us. Like,
Yes,
that's
thank
the
you.
first stop. That's it. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And hopefully we won't have to include you as women. We will include you as fellow anglers.
There you go.
Love it.
United
Sounds
Anglers
good.
for all, right?
Yeah, that's the future, is United Anglers on the fly. We're not there yet, but we will be.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, we will be.
Thank you all, and thanks for everyone being on tonight. What a special evening. Really appreciate it, and trust me, you will always be on our main stage and in our boardroom. So,
Now, before we go,
oh yeah,
before
sorry,
we
go
go,
ahead, David.
anybody who writes into us, I will personally send you a Masters of the Fly bumper sticker. Abbie's got one on the back of her pickup.
do.
I know it's there.
Mhm.
And of course, Jen and Heather, you'll be getting a few of these for yourselves. And you'll notice our very nice colors and everything. So anyway, so please, send us an email to either me or Lou or to Masters of Fly Gmail, and we will get this to you.
David, don't forget, right? Next 2 episodes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, we did talk about it, but I'll mention it again. And wait, where did I put my schedule? We have James Prosick coming up on April 2nd, right? And we have the Guides Roundtable coming up on May 1st. That will include Abbie, again, a woman who really
on the main stage.
On the main stage.
On the main stage. That's right. And the thing is, it's just going to be fellow guides. It's not about gender. So here we go. And this is the beginning. And this is how this is how it should be. Oh, I just dropped my phone. That was the noise. But that's how it should be. And Abbie, I cannot wait to co-host with you. It's going to be great.
Dave, I'm so excited. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me. That's awesome.
Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you all. And
Thank
this is the beginning. Much more to come. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.